The Lost and Found Prince. Story 10 of Fabulous Tales and Fables ASAP by Owen T Duggan. The Lost and Found Prince. Scene 6. An apron lady loudly knocks. It didn't take long. People wanted to see. Swarms showed up. "They think they're birds?" someone wondered. "Those aprons are enchanted," someone declared anxiously. "Those aprons are enchanted," someone else declared excitedly. "Should we burn them?" another uttered morosely. "So what? You mean burn the aprons? Or burn the birds?" "No," said a voice of reason. "This must all be part of the treatment." "Well, it's not going to work." According to enchanted apron theory, the room was now holding cage for a wild bird and a domesticated one, a pheasant and a chicken. Indeed, Dr. Appletree's magic apron featured the image of a pheasant. Who could say what further sorcery would be unleashed about town if everyone donned animal aprons? No one entered the dwelling, no one dared, though many watched as morning passed. Rooster and pheasant became spectacles for neighbors. Two grown men as birds were squatting and squawking, flapping and strutting. Meanwhile, viewers would speculate and conversate, then depart when they'd been sufficiently entertained, to be replaced by others in turn. Around noon, keys rattled, a lock jiggled, a door swung open, curious viewers were pushed back, and 3 official keepers paraded in. "A pheasant does not answer doors," declared the pheasant doctor. "Chut, chut! Especially when you don't knock first." The men and woman, apparently ready for barn stall chores, had a yard shovel and dirt bin, as well as a bale of straw. "Great," said one sarcastically. "Now we have 2 loony birds to deal with." Another said,
"So you're a pheasant now, Sir Doctor, are you? Just because you put on that shabby apron?"
"A pheasant may wear an apron if a pheasant so desires," declared Appletree, looking away, strutting to a far wall. "And a rooster may do so too." Beresavi was strutting as well, and presently knocked over a small bench. Appletree added, impromptu, "Birds, wild or tame, don't care so much for domestic furnishings." "You're not fooling anyone, Dr. Pheasant," said a barn-keeper. "You're only making a grand fool of yourself." "Responding to snide remarks is not what a pheasant does," Appletree snapped, voice shrill. "Chut, chut!" Bird-like and lightly on the balls of his feet, he ruffled the imagined feathers of his wings. With hands to shoulders, elbows were wingtips. Beresavi did exactly the same. "Have it your way, for now," said a keeper. "I bet you can't keep that up for long. You're not that good an actor." The barn-keepers didn't stay long in the barn. They cleaned a bit and snapped the 2 cords that held the straw bale together, leaving it to the occupants to figure out how to use it, for bedding or sanitation. Grumbling, they checked the back door latch. You could exit, but not enter. And they locked the front door upon exiting. Further, they deprived the occupants of outside air, shutting up the shutters. "No air, but no audience either," thought Appletree. "At least I can treat my patient alone." He stuck to his method instead of forcing direct interaction. Keeping to himself, he let the patient mind his own business as well, which at the moment involved messing about with the straw bale. Sometimes the rooster was tranquil, sometimes boisterous. Especially he was frantic when foraging. Bread chunks on the floor were now scattered crumbs. At one point in the afternoon, Appletree flapped his way from floor to chair to tabletop. Squatting, he pecked with his face and smacked with his wing arms at the bundle he brought until his remaining snacks, left over from the hotel, were accessible There was salami slices, apples, vegetable sticks, and more. Appletree snatched an actual apple in his beak, his mouth, and swooped back to the floor, to peck at and crunch his namesake, the apple. Sloppy-faced, he squawked out the words, "It's quite all right for a rooster, too, to scavenge food from a tabletop." Appletree knew his indirect invitation to be fairly ridiculous, but no more ridiculous than the whole charade. His chosen role in treatment was some kind of sympathetic match for Beresevi's chosen manner of dissociating. He was building trust with the patient, not using force. "This might work," he thought, "or it might fail miserably, and I'll be considered a complete idiot." Night fell soon enough. The patient slept in a heap of straw. The doctor slept on the table under his old coat. Nighttime passed with dreams and random impressions that made the doctor tense, such as a wild boar charging out from wet underbrush, and a wolf pack encircling a horse-drawn coach on a dry, flat field. Eyes in the dark watched. There was a growling or a rumbling, or rocks tumbling down a steep slope, smashing into fir trees, the upper tree limbs vibrating and snapping at the impact. Then everything settled, tranquil and fine, as dawn came. For all their poignancy, the dreams he recalled yielded no special insight into any next stage of treatment. So much for tapping mythic wellsprings of deep consciousness. All he'd gained in the night was a nasty kink in the neck. A rooster crowed. Some other one, not Beresevi. Of course Beresevi followed in kind with his own rooster call. Appletree didn't get up, though. As well as a kink precisely in the lower left side of the neck, his body overall was sluggish. He gazed at the high beams and ceiling, recalling what that old staff geezer at the inn had said while collecting teacups, that in some lands, when there are too many sons in line to the throne, they choose just one, then strangle the others.
Then strangle all the others. Brutal, yes, but it does prevent a civil war.
Appletree must have dozed off at that point, because he drifted into a dream that came to him like a memory. Once, in times past, Dr. Appletree was called upon as impartial witness to an execution. It was at his coastal city, where a foreign prince upon his ship was lying peaceful at harbor. "It's a diplomatic matter," the doctor was told when requested to join a delegation of city officials and port authorities. How could he refuse? They were rowed over to the ship, alongside which was a messenger vessel, a two-masted cutter, direct from a land to the east, where a new ruler had been proclaimed. Aboard the boat, in plain view, in broad daylight, the prince was led out, calmly, and with dignity. No need for dramatic pretense, or a damning accusation, or a stealthy assassination, making the death look like an accident that could happen at any time, to you, to me, to anyone. The deed was done. After the formal strangulation, Dr. Appletree was requested to verify death. And indeed, the victim was dead. His name had been Bey Selim, and he had been a prince of the Tartar people, vassals to a vast Turkish empire. The good doctor was thanked and paid for his service, and in neither celebration nor in lamentation, the officials went about their bitter boiled tea and sweets, and their bubbly, fruity mint water pipes. They had been cruel in order to keep the peace. It was, as they said, He diplomatic matter.
And Dr. Appletree was only there to observe, not to ask questions, and certainly not to interfere.
Oh, they bless the heavens!
Appletree exclaimed, fully awake, and he said a prayer to chase away the willies.
Bless me! It is not always so great to be a prince, that's for sure.
Shutters swung open. It was well into the morning. Air streamed in. Dr. Appletree shook off lethargy, getting up off the table where he was reclined. No door opened to bring in food and water, but a long arm was placing wine bottles through the window onto the counter, one by one. The bottles looked filled with water.
Silly humans,
Appletree said.
Pheasants don't drink their water from bottles. They prefer shallow basins.
Words outside could be heard.
Is he still at it? Yes. Seems he is still at it.
Let's get this over with.
The 3 jailkeepers came in, and at once began taunting their inmates.
Beresavi, 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 Rudigal.
Beresavi, hey, use the freaking backhouse, will you? Okay? Enough is enough, or we won't bring you any more food and water. Don't you want any water?
And how do you think Nan feels about all this? She's upset, you know. Beresavi, soon it might be out of our hands. The folk from the next neighborhood over want to tie you up and take you out of here, for good, you know. You don't want that to happen, do you?
Appletree felt protective, but kept up the charade.
Chut, chut,
he screeched.
The cage keepers leave us fresh water in shallow basins. They clean out our cage. They perform these services, and then they piss the hell off. Chut, chut! Really, Doctor? Honestly? Do birds even speak like humans? I never saw the likes of that before. They speak when they want to,
said Appletree to the wall.
Doctor, it seems high time to wrap things up. You've achieved nothing. You're the one performing a disservice. You're making a damned mockery of this, of the family. It's a lost cause. Wrap it up.
Appletree chose not to respond. He had already reacted too emotionally to the sudden intimation from the people who were supposed to support his methods. He withdrew to his thoughts.
Had these people never served in any way like this? Never tended the deathly ill in a hospice? Never tended the dead body for burial? Hell, had they never changed a poopy baby? So what if a patient can't help crapping on the floor like an animal? There's lots of crappy things humans do in the world that they cannot seem to help doing.
Doctor, we're talking to you,
said one of the keepers.
Look at us when we're speaking.
The doctor squatted, stubbornly gazing down the hall towards the back door, exactly as Beresavi had done the first time the doctor saw him.
He's not a very good doctor after all, is he?
Doctor! 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 Dr. Appletree.
Doctor, you're a loser.
The rooster attacked. He, Beresavi, hand-whacked and head-butted the nearest human shins to him, then raced to the next pair. He managed to contact all 3 of the keepers at shins, knees, and thighs, adding slobber to the assault, and a chickenly kind of bark, 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 while bouncing up to screech full volume into their ears, brack, 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 brack. All of them were off guard, terrified. They bumped into each other, trying to escape the head-buttage and the hand-whackage. Bottlenecking at the back door, they fumbled the latch and scrambled out. The doctor's more or less clinical observation was the thought that Beresavi's no coward, despite being a chicken, ferocious in battle when he needs to be. Appletree had watched it all, uninvolved, not interfering, neither impeding nor encouraging Beresavi's outburst, though he did find it mildly entertaining. People at the window found it entertaining too. They had watched, Appletree having tuned out their presence till now. And just now came the voices of the keepers again. They had trudged round to the front door to re-lock it noisily.
"So you call that trying, do you, Doctor?"
one of them said.
"Well, we'll see, Appletree. When we come back, we three, we're bringing some muscle. You can be sure of it.
And we're clearing out any loony birds we find. You hear? You can be sure of it."
Violence is the deal breaker. So-called doctor, you're done.
You're not a good doctor, after all. You're a useless wolf. Time's up. Wrap it up. Wrap it up?
Thought Appletree.
No one tells a pheasant what to do. When you come back,
he called out,
don't forget to bring bread bits.
You can meet the rooster.
Dr. Lethargy. Dr. Appletree shook off lethargy.